Hello, this is the Tradesight Market Preview, Combined Market Preview, and Economic Data Roadmap for the week beginning Sunday, the 15th of November 2020, ending Friday the 20th. By the way, options expiration week already. It is just a single expiration, normal expiration, not a triple expiration. All right, so let's go through everything. Remember, we're combining Forex, futures, and stocks now, and we're going to take a look at all the markets. Here's a look at the dollar index daily chart. This is again, just so flat. We talked about this a week ago. Has been flat since August, and this week was certainly no exception. We had a couple winners and a couple losers in Forex. Most of it because the dollar's not going anywhere. Here's the euro dollar. You can see also just dead flat. Pound dollar made a little move this week and then came back. There was at least range. All of our calls are in the pound right now because that's the only place where there's any real action. Look at the Aussie dollar. I mean, look how tiny those candles are, and it's right up against that risk line from the 13 sell signal. But look at how tiny those candles are. That's not tradable. Euro yen, just kind of a declining week. Monday was a pop and then flat. Pound yen, same thing. Monday was a pop in the yen-based stuff. Pound Swiss, nothing much there. And the New Zealand dollar pair drifted up to new highs. So overall, not a lot of excitement in the Forex stuff. Let's look at the intra-week action. So we go to 30-minute candles on the euro dollar. High to low for the week is 170 or so pips, which is not great. And again, a lot of that was Monday, where there was about 100 pips of range. The rest of the week was stuck in less than 100 pip range, so very narrow action for the week. Meanwhile, the pound dollar, high to low for the week, 200 pips. Now, this was a little more volatile. Went up on Tuesday, back on Wednesday, came lower on Thursdays, and then back up on Friday. So we got a little better chances here on the pound dollar, and that's basically what we've been doing. Showing you the rest of these charts is pretty much a waste of time. Look at the Aussie dollar. You're talking about nothing here. 100 pips of range for the whole week. So it's just not that interesting, and there's really nothing we can do about it. So let's move on to the stock market. Here's the ES. This is the broad market futures. And again, even this was pretty narrow. Very narrow week for stocks trading as well, unfortunately. I was expecting a little more action. We did have the U.S. bank holiday on Wednesday, so that affected Forex, of course, but also affected stocks. But still, this was just, when you see the intra-week action, you'll see how narrow everything was. Let's go through the major daily charts. Crude oil down $1 on Friday to 40.12 for the close. Gold up 14.90 cents, which is still in a very narrow range. Everything's been pretty stuck since August. S&P cash index here. So this did make new highs on Monday on the gap up on the news of Biden finally getting the call for the win, plus the vaccine, which may or may not mean much in the short term. Unfortunately, there's still questions about the vaccine and certainly questions about the deliverability of it and how soon that could happen. I don't think anybody expects much until February or March, either way, in terms of big numbers of the vaccine being delivered. But the S&P was up 48 on Friday. But when you see the inter-week action on this, you'll see it wasn't a very interesting week. Nasdaq was up 110 on Friday. It was up. It gapped up Monday and had an engulfing day down, and then went lower on Tuesday, and then bounced back the rest of the week a bit, but not very actionable. SOX up 30. SOX made new highs earlier in the week. Biotech's up 52. Near new highs, but not quite there. The Russell 2000. Small cap index looking good. Bull flag formation here, and we had a recycle here of the count. So we're not going to get a 13 sell signal. This is all-time highs on the Russell 2000 index. Looks good for the broader small cap sector. VIX drops $2.25 to 23.10. The trend closes at 0.84, and that puts the 10-day moving average at 0.98, which is not a signal for us in any direction. Volume, 3.6 billion on Friday. Strangely, even though Veterans Day with that bank holiday was Wednesday, the lightest volume day of the week was on Friday. The heaviest volume day was Monday with the big gap up. Advance decline ratio on the Nasdaq plus 1667. More stocks up than down, of course, on the New York plus 1981. So that's good market breadth. Some of the best we've seen in 6 months, basically, coming out on Friday. Even though we did have one day negative, obviously, earlier this week. But good market breadth in general. Google up $24.99, but really kind of flat for the week if you look at it. Apple up just 5 cents. Sorry about that. Also flat for the week. Netflix down $3.93. That's kind of a blip. It's been stuck since July. Amazon up 18.53, also stuck since July. Tesla down $3.26. Facebook up $1.87. Goldman Sachs up $4.57. near breakout highs here, potential. We'll see, but really stuck in the range it's been in since June. TLT, the 20-year bond ETF, down 21 cents. The Dow Jones was up about 400. We don't really care much about the Dow, although it's right around that, 500 points away from that 30,000 level that it's never been at. So we'll see if that does, in fact, come into play. So that's a look at the week itself on some of these majors. Now let's, just because we haven't done this for a while, let's go to some of the broader charts. So we're going to go look at the ES, but let's go out. Actually, we'll do it with the S&P. We'll do it on the monthly basis. So let's just take a look and see. Look at this. No new signals. Counts barely formed. Not much to worry about here in terms of a sell signal currently. Doesn't mean we can't go down. It just means the signal's out there. The Nasdaq side, this is now going to be when the month closes. We're still weeks away from that. You're going to have 8. The end of the year could be a 9-bar up scenario, which would be a pause point potentially for the market in December. Stocks monthly, no count there. Biotech's up at all-time highs, but still no count at all here because it just had a price flip. So it had started a downward count until today. Russell 2000 up 35. This one's, look at that. That's a great looking chart for a breakout. And even if we go to a weekly chart on some of these, this weekly on the Russell is going to look really good. Look at that. Look at that. That's a breakout pattern if you've ever seen one before. Let's look real quick for counts on the Nasdaq. Nope. On the S&P cash. Nope. And let's just verify that the futures are no different. Nope. So, again, no real signals, no signs of a sell signal per se on any of these time frames at the moment. I think that obviously the biggest concern for the market is going to be COVID going forward. As the numbers continue to rise, the hospitalization rates are reaching some pretty scary numbers around the country, and that's the thing that matters. So if there's a danger to the market right now, it's COVID, not probably much else. All right, let's look at the intra week action. So let's go to 10-minute candles on the ES futures just so you can see what we saw for the week. So here's, again, this is the thing. Monday, the big gap up, wiggled around, eventually came back down a bit, about halfway on the ES. Tuesday, a small gap down, dead flat session. Wednesday, a small gap up, really dead flat. Remember, there was still volume, but this is that Veterans Day holiday, so the action was dead. Remember, when the banks aren't around, it's hard for the market to move. Thursday, a small gap, pretty flat, came back down a bit. So if you look at Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, it's all just kind of Friday, we gap up. It's a horribly flat day until maybe the last hour and a half, and then suddenly you start to get a little move up. So you close up for the week on the S&P. If you look at the Nasdaq side, it's a little different story. The gap up Monday morning. This one actually went higher. The S&P did not. It went higher about an hour in on Monday. Came back and closed negative. Gapped down on Tuesday, but then flat. Gapped up on Wednesday, but just kind of a drift. Thursday, a drift. Friday, not much. So it actually closed down a couple points for the week, which is obviously interesting to see. All right, so that is a look at the markets right now. We don't have any signals. Obviously, we're just looking at, we're looking for any buy or sell signals in the market. They're not there. Just focus on trading, and hopefully we'll get some better range here at some point in time, so we get better action intraday for our calls. All right, let's go through the economic data coming out in this week. These are all Eastern time, so I won't say that again. Japanese preliminary GDP 650 on Sunday. UK's right move housing price index, China's fixed asset investment, industrial production and retail sales, and their unemployment rate. Japan's revised industrial production. Monday's kind of limited. We've got the ECB financial stability review, Canada's manufacturing sales, U.S. Empire State Manufacturing Index. Australia's got their CB leading index. Italian trade balance out of Europe. 30-year bond auction out of the UK. Canada's got their housing starts and their wholesale sales. And we have our retail sales at 8:30 a.m. And then import-export prices. At 9:15, we have capacity utilization and industrial production. At 10, we've got business inventories and the NAHB housing market index, and then the tick long-term purchases at the end of the day. New Zealand's got their PPI that night. Australia's got their MI leading index. Trade balance out of Japan. Wage price index out of Australia. Going into Wednesday, CPI, PPI, RPI. Housing price index out of the UK. Europe's final CPI number. German 10-year bond auction. Canada's got their CPI, and then we have our housing starts and building permits. That's all at 8:30 a.m. on Wednesday. Crude oil inventories at 10:30 that night. We've got the unemployment rate out of Australia. Now you're going into Thursday. Swiss trade balance, European current account, UK's CBI industrial order expectations, Canada's ADP non-farm employment change, U.S. 8:30 a.m. Philadelphia, or the Philly Fed manufacturing index, and the weekly initial and continuing jobless claims numbers. CB, that's still expected to be 700,000, by the way, new jobless claims. CB leading index here in the U.S. at 10, along with existing home sales. Natty gas at 10:30. National core CPI out of Japan. Consumer confidence at 7 out of the UK. Retail sales out of Australia. Japan's flash manufacturing PMI number, and credit card spending here out of New Zealand. And then Friday, we've got the German PPI at 2 a.m., retail sales out of the UK, retail sales out of Canada, and consumer confidence out of Europe to close out the week. So none of our big three, no Fed meeting, that's we just had that last week, and no new GDP number. We got some straggling earnings, but really it's just to be a straightforward trading time. I think the focus, I mean, obviously there's a twofold focus. One, to make sure that the transition to power goes smoothly, and the other one is COVID. That's the bigger one, I'm sure, and we will see what we get. So we look forward to the week ahead, and hopefully guiding you on some better action than what we saw this week. We have a limited number of calls this week because there's so many dead areas, dead space as we call it. Charts as usual brought to you by eSignal. If you've not yet taken a trial of our services, feel free to do so. We will help you out for a couple weeks. Have a great trading week.